This is Viraj. Today we are going to talk about pattern matching with instance of operator in Java. This feature is available in Java 14 and Java 15 as preview, but will be finalized in Java 16 as a part of the 16 release. So what exactly is the pattern matching about? If you're thinking about regular expressions, then remove that thought from your mind. It's not. Let's dive in with an example. I have Eclipse open over here. I have created a class called instanceof tester. So this is going to be running in Java 15 GRE. I'm going to create a main method like this, and then we will start immediately with coding. Let's say we have an object. We call this object age, and this could be a string or it could be a number, an integer. So let's finalize the requirements around this. From the requirements perspective, this age object is a string containing an integer age, or this age could be an integer which itself is a number. And the age must be less than or equal to 65. So think about retirement age. So I want to filter out all ages which are greater than 65. I just want to throw a runtime exception. In Java, the normal way to do this would be to use an instance of operator, right? Because I don't know what this object age is. Is it a string right now or is it an integer? So in order to differentiate between the two, what I'll do is that I'll put an if statement and say if age instance of string, then do something, else if age instance of integer, do something else. And if it is neither a string or an integer, I just want to throw an exception, invalid type, and so on, right? So this is like the broad structure of this program, and I'm actually going to just write down here at the end, basically say sysout valid age. And if it is invalid at any point of time, I'm just going to throw a runtime exception. So the best way to do this now here from what we know till now is this point age we know is a string, so it is very safe to cast it as a string. So I'm going to say age, and then at this point I can actually extract the integer from the age because I know even though it is a string, it is still an integer. I'm going to extract it and then compare it with 65 because 65 being the retirement age. So I would just simply say int age int equal to type the age string over here. So now I get the integer value of that age. And now at this point, I will just simply write a small function which will just throw an exception. So in this case, I can say this way. So I still have not written the function. I'm just going to write this function quickly. If age int greater than 65, then I'll just simply throw like that. Now we come down to the integer part. If it is age of instance, if the instance is an integer, then what we do is it's already an integer. I'm just going to say throw and then just pass the age int right there. But before that, I just need to cast it. So that's pretty much what you would do, right? And then when you run it, let's say for example, if this age is 64 as a string, and if you run it, you will see it's a valid age. If it is 66, you will see it's an invalid age, right? Or it throws an exception saying it's an invalid age. Now this could also be a number. I'm going to just say, instead of having it as string, I can say object age equal to 66. I should still get the same thing, right? Invalid. And if it is 64, See. So right now, everything is what we already know. Now with Java 16, things are going to change slightly. What we can do is, along with the instance of operator, if you think about it here, we really do not need to cast here at line 15 because we already really told the compiler that this is an instance of string. So we should be able to make a little change here to avoid that line 15. So with Java 16, what we can do is we can actually put this age string right over here and delete this line. That's it. So what we're telling the compiler here is, yes, it's an instance of string, but assign it to age string variable directly over there so that I don't have to make a separate statement to extract that age. So this is super convenient because now the age string could be used from inside this block. Note that this age string can only be used inside this particular block and not outside. So this is again a useful thing. The same thing can be done over here. So instead of saying age instance of integer, I can also say age int and remove this line. So again, this has become a little bit more concise, and the variable can be used directly inside. So with this change, if I run it, and now if I change it to an age which is higher than 65 and run it, it'll give an exception. So no compile time errors, no runtime errors. We were able to get things done correctly even with this change. Note that there is still this yellow thing out there. That's because it's still a preview language feature as of Java 15. In Java 16, this will become release feature, at which point that yellow squiggly thing will go away. So what exactly was the pattern matching over here? And that was the confusing part. So the pattern matching here was basically the instance of was really checking the shape of the object and then assigning it to a variable. So that was the pattern matching, checking the shape of that object. So one other interesting thing, there's another Java proposal which is coming in where you can also convert this into a switch statement. So you can see that there's an if, else. So you could easily think about this as a switch statement on an age, and then have a case with string age str, and then another case for integer age in. So in which case it's switching based on the type of age. So that is not yet in preview or in production. That's something which is coming in the future, and that's also very exciting. So these changes are really making Java a very concise language. So one other thing that I do want to touch base with is that, let me just remove this thing for a second. Now, another thing we can do is that you can say if, and then say age instance of string, and I can say and, okay, and I'm actually going to put the variable in here, and then say something like age string, which is basically we're converting that into an integer, and then say if it is greater than 65, then throw. So you can do this. So note that this age string which was defined over here can be used within that same expression. So in that sense, age string can be used within that expression in which it is used and declared, or within the block, within the if block. So either of the two works fine. So this whole pattern matching on instance of is super convenient in Java. So in conclusion, this feature makes Java a better language and more concise. Hope this was helpful.